Good evening. Thank you. Testing, testing. Sounds good? Okay.
Where's my gong?
Just one more time? No.
Yeah, some tea. Chamomile, please. Thank you.
Coba minta ngomong. You know what? I bought your book. That filing session didn't have anything in it, but I bought it on Amazon because I need to contribute to the cause anyway.
Okay.
And not be a fun.
Okay.
And I'm only 3/4 of the way through it, man, but I really love how it's written and laid out. The chapters are one word. Like, I really,
Yeah.
I really
Thank you.
it's been helpful. And reading another book at the same time, and you go like this.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. Can I try the Instagram live stream it? I can try to live stream it. But I'd set it up right here. Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. We woke up 6:45 because we didn't hear the thing. He was very polite this morning. Yeah, I saw him. But you did it at 6 o'clock, right? Yeah, I didn't hear him.
Did you hear the gong?
But I was awake already, so like you. You're very sensitive person, yes?
So I think I have to hit it harder.
The crickets apparently when they go this loud, the crickets, and not it's going to rain. It's not going to rain. Balinese baby called.
All right.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ooh, thank you. By the way, we are live already. So, what we say. Yeah, we're live. Paulina, do you think we should, so it's live streaming on YouTube, but do you want to do some live on Instagram? Just maybe walking around or something, a little bit?
Yeah, I can do that.
It's
How
like-
long do you want me to go live
Just
for?
to tease people, if it's 10 minutes, usually 10, something like that.
Yeah, sure, I can do that. No worries.
Yeah, awesome. And then the story, sorry, I sent you the link, because we don't get it until 5 minutes before.
No, that's
So
all right.
this morning I sent you the
Yeah.
link, please post it now. So yeah, if we can post another one, I just WhatsApped it to you
Oh, the link
for this one.
for the YouTube. Oh, to post again.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Super. Thank you. Oh, the dedication? Today's journal question? I'll announce it later. Usually journals are private, but maybe somebody wants to share. I don't know, we'll see. A mic. Oh. Whatever comes out. Mm-hmm. Welcome. Do we have, she's posting the live link. No, she's doing a story right now. There you are. Are we complete? I think that's good. Who's missing? Okay. Okay, well, welcome to the end of day one. We only have 6 more days to go. And the meditation practice that we initiated today and started sinking into more and more is really an exercise in surrender. You've maybe heard the term before. We should surrender to the situation, we should surrender to the higher power, whatever it is, there's different contexts, but this idea of surrender is central to coming out of our thoughts. Because once we're out of our thoughts, we're no longer in this mode of trying to control things. So in the absence of control, and this is why many people freak out when the thoughts are released, because they're used to controlling their life. And they think the state of being in your body and out of your thoughts is a state of chaos, is a state of losing control, because there's an unknown factor there, that the mind is not comfortable with the unknown. So, to that extent, I want to read a chapter, or part of a chapter today, from BU. It's the Surrender chapter, and I see many of you brought your copies. That's wonderful. It's page 161. No, but you can listen. Yes. But if you have it, you can read along. Yes. Yes. I'm just taking it in. Perfect. Okay. Page 161, Surrender. Surrender is the act of giving up control. Not that you have control over anything in life ever, but when you're in your headspace, you believe that you do. You keep controlling, planning, steering, and living for outcomes. And then you get frustrated when things don't go your way. Eventually, after trying to bend the world to your will has gotten you nowhere, you hit a wall. You might even hit rock bottom. That's when surrender becomes an option. Initially, surrendering brings peace to your exhausted mind. But it's a misleading sense of calm. Underneath the surface, your mind never really lets go. That's because everything the mind creates is part of its controlling nature, including a temporary letting go. Even if you're entirely convinced that you've given up control over a situation, it's usually just conditional. The moment conditions change, so does your willingness to surrender. But don't blame yourself. That's just the way your mind works. Surrender is a foreign concept. It cannot accept it forever. Indeed, quietly, a different kind of anguish is building up. Deep down, the belief that your way is the best way is still there. As soon as the opportunity presents itself, the desire to control comes bubbling up, and your never really gone steering mindset comes roaring back. Your mind does not know how to surrender. You can only come out of your head altogether. So much of what we read, so much of what we're told, leads us to think that we just have to figure out our problems. Figure it out with our head, come up with a solution, look for options, and all that really does is continuously activate and reactivate the source of our misery. The first is because we create life from the mind. So the mind is a great tool, but it doesn't know you. It's just a tool that you use. So a tool that you use never has the wisdom or the insight to know you deeply, to know what's right for you. So that inner truth cannot come from a tool. It can only come from our deeper inner blueprint. And so that's what we were doing today. That's what we started doing today. Started coming out of that head altogether. The mind will always be there. It's a great planning tool. It's great for organizational matters, for analytics, for other rational activities. This is not against the mind mentality. It's just use the mind for what it's good for. And don't use it for the things it's not designed for. Just as a civilization, over the last 100 years, especially, we've been think our way to life. So as we come out of the mind, we enter a new space, kind of a new territory of, well, if we're not controlling, if we're not seemingly in control, which we never really are, life is continuous, it's always changing. It's actually remarkable, if you think about it, that generation after generation, our parents, their parents, everyone that's come before us, had an opportunity to realize that every time they plan for something, it always winds up different. It's remarkable. Years and generations go by and we keep doing the same thing. So this is how ingrained and how deep this conditioning of being in our head, living in our head really is. And so in many ways, that's what we're up against, is this deep conditioning. And what happens when we start to put a crack in that conditioning, like we started doing today, all this noise that used to live in there and occupy us and pull us in one direction and another direction and one strategy, another strategy, one outcome after another outcome, when that noise subsides, something else has room to rise to the surface. And that something else is our inner life, our inner wisdom, but also our inner troubles, stuck feelings, traumas, some inherited, some that we've experienced ourselves. And so it's not just so simple to come out of our minds and start focusing on our breath and life will be rosy. There's a healing process, and it's unique for every single one of us. But things start to surface, because now that this noise up here isn't pushing everything down, keeping us preoccupied, there's room and space for things to surface, and things naturally surface. Because feelings naturally come and go. If we didn't cling to a feeling, ooh, I like it, or if we didn't reject it and push it away because, oh, it's unpleasant, then feelings would naturally arise and pass. And so all those feelings that have arisen in one context or another, positive or negative, doesn't matter, it's the same. Over all of those years, that we've clung to the ones that were pleasant and we resisted the ones that were unpleasant, they're stuck inside of us. Layers and layers and layers of stuck feelings. Some small, some big. Some attached to difficult memories, some attached to wonderful memories that we then try to, relive by achieving the same goal or avoiding the situations that caused the traumas before. We're led to relive those old experiences based on our stuck feelings because we're trying to avoid the negative ones and trying to have more of the positive ones. So we're again not actually living, we're not actually alive, we're not responding to circumstances, we're not open to life happening and the change happening within us and without us. But rather, our inside, our chemistry, our internal energetic makeup is steering and controlling us subconsciously. We get into relationships, so to make up, we look for people that have the features to make up for our inner lack. We go down avenues that in career or in our projects where we seek the things that we think will lead to happiness because something inside is missing.
That's also parents who created from the early age, right? How we were raised, what we were taught in school, like
Absolutely. Deep patterns, I call it a truth structure. There's this massive truth structure inside of us that we then seek to constantly validate the things we believe in and avoid the things that we don't believe in or refuse the things we believe in. And this truth structure dominates us, this mental truth structure. And it's so much work to uphold all this truth. Every headline you read, every speech that you hear, you're comparing it to what you believe. And you have to validate, and if you don't believe that, then you try to defend yourself and become defensive or accusatory. So much work and so much heaviness and so much noise in living through the mind. For some people it's deeper, for some people it's less deep. In some areas we have complex entanglements. In other areas, we're a little more clean. Just when you think you've solved, you've come out of one wound, something else pops up. Along the way, there's a recognition that whether you like it or not, we're here to heal. We're here to grow. Our purpose here is to learn, to become more self-aware. It's not about this happy, perfect picture that we achieve one day. Because again, that's the mind that makes up a static picture of life. But life is not static. And even if we achieve something for a moment, there's joy, but it's temporary. Because it's fleeting and it leaves us again, then we're clinging to it. And that moment of joy turns into clinging and almost fear of wanting more. This roller coaster of life, of all these emotions and wants and needs. And it all comes because we're navigating life through this truth structure in our minds. And it's no wonder, because we've been conditioned since day one. We get barraged by our caregivers. Many of them mean well. They say you should be this, you should become that, you're good at this, you're not good at that, and all these outside voices, and we're little babies and we just absorb everything without having a choice, really. We don't have the tools to even know what resonates and what doesn't. We just soak it up. And then we spend the rest of our adulthood and our lives trying to sort it all out. So everybody goes through that. Nobody's immune to it. But some people are fortunate in one way or another to come across the right tools, to develop the right mindset, to gain the insight, to show up at a retreat like this, or a book that finds you. It's amazing how books find you. Remarkable. At the right time. And then it's just a question of dedicating yourself to the practice. If you're going to spend 16 hours a day doing, active, pursuing, using your mind, well, you need a couple hours at least to offset that with being, with maintaining a connection to your inner self, your inner truth, who you are at your core. So, and that's not a separate activity. It's for that connection to your true self to inform the doing, so that you can then make the right choices as they arise. Everything is possible. That's another whole thing, right? To the mind, everything is possible until your mind decides to believe in this, and this, and this, and this. A handful of truths, maybe a couple hundred at most. And then that becomes your reality. And you think that's the world. It's almost impossible, when you look at it that way, to imagine living through this super narrow lens of, well, these are my options. And ultimately, all beliefs are self-limiting beliefs because of that. So today we took a very big step. Everyone here somehow found their path, led you to here. I congratulated everyone, and I'm so happy to be part of this group. That somehow you found your way here through those other voices. Who here had to explain to somebody where they were going, and and were met with some eyebrow raises?
Oh
Yeah.
Who did not?
That's the easier one. Raise your hand. I did a retreat with Dr. Brian Weiss one time, the father of regression therapy, and it was in Las Vegas. And he revealed that the best place to have a retreat like this is Las Vegas, because anyone who goes there doesn't have to explain anything to their loved ones. Going to Vegas! And that's explanation enough. So, but we're here in Bali. So the practice is to be taken very serious. It can be difficult at times. It can be euphoric at times as well. Learning to experiencing, as I call it, is that is the evolution that we're moving into. And there will be times when it's just not working. It might not be, your mind is just unruly. You can't keep your attention on your breath whatsoever. Sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months. I've had periods of 4, 5, 6 months just gone. And it's up to you to find a way through. It's partly the mind throwing things at you, not giving you the peace and the reaffirmation that this is leading to somewhere, that you're feeling change. Sometimes there are stuck feelings. I'll get to you in a second. Sometimes there are stuck feelings that are so deep and they're so dense that we can observe them and we can stay out of our mind for a very long time, and it barely cracks it open. And sometimes we encounter those blind spots inside of ourselves, and it just takes a while. But ultimately, we are the chosen ones in the way that we all came from, as you mentioned, patterns, family patterns, social patterns. And most people continue for a variety of reasons: safety, group, safety, conformity, yes? Fear, huge one, fear. They choose or don't choose to continue those patterns. So we're like explorers, we're discoverers, we're navigators, we're leaders, we're adventurers, we're risk takers, because we're going into this uncharted territory. And many of those fears that you mentioned are attached to wounds. And many of those wounds can be very big, overwhelming, and may seem so much safer to not go there. Even though we all know, most people know, that suppressing your emotions is just not going to be a good thing in the long run. Medicating or numbing to avoid those feelings and emotions is just not a good thing in the long run. It comes back. And then it's much harder to get back out of it. Start identifying with the woundedness. It can run so deep that your entire life will be controlled by it. But as far as I've seen with this technique, simple as it is, even the greatest wounds can be healed. They really can. People with addiction problems, with severe behavioral disorders, migraines. The founder of modern day Vipassana discovered the practice because he couldn't get rid of his deep migraine. It was driving him crazy. And he had the money to see the best doctors all over the world. And that's what led him to this. So, the way this retreat is organized and scheduled is a template for what you will hopefully take back into your lives, into your daily lives. We have an hour in the morning. We have an hour in the evening. Those are the most precious hours you'll have to do the work, to release stuck feelings, to develop a stronger awareness muscle, so that your mind doesn't keep hijacking your experience of life. At the retreat, we also have that third hour thrown into the late morning, middle of the day, just to give you an extra boost. We have the third hour, late morning, while we're here. But ultimately, the template is to take an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening practice into our daily lives. And there will be periods where that is just too much. If you can do 15 minutes, morning and evening, just do 15 minutes. But it's like so many things, if you lose the connection to it, it'll be much harder to find back to it. And I know that from personal experience. It's like going to the gym. If you just go a little bit regularly, your body will stay trim and tuned. It'll remember it. Same thing with meditation. You just take those 10, 15 minutes. And the reason why the morning time is so important is because there's an opportunity at night. We talked about how sleep ultimately is nature's way of forcing your mind to be still, to be quiet, because we used it so much on the previous day. So the wonderful thing about the practice is that at least one of those 2 hours, that ideally you're practicing an hour in the morning, hour in the evening, you gain that hour back, 1 hour at least, by needing to sleep less. Because you're just not as exhausted. Your mind does not need to sleep as long, and the quality of your sleep is better as well. Your energy goes through the roof. There are places in India where they've instituted this at the government level in certain districts. And performance and accuracy, everything skyrocketed. This is something you can apply in your business. You can apply this if you're a teacher in a different modality. You can apply it with students. And of course with your partners. If you have another partner who can share along in that practice, all the better. And the most fun is when you bring that practice into your family. I've seen so many families change, including my own. Not because I said, hey, you got to try this, but because they saw the changes in me. And because without knowing it, I was no longer contributing to the dynamic of my relationship with my brother, my mom, my parents, aunts and uncles, whatever it may be. Without knowing it, by doing the work on myself, there was a change in the dynamic. I was no longer locked into the relationship in the way that I was before. Lots of that was resistance, criticism, belief validation. So I was keeping that unhealthy relationship intact, being part and parcel of that. And so working on yourself will bring change to all of those relationships. And it's a miracle when you then realize even the most difficult family situations can be dissolved, can be healed. People that could barely spend a day, a holiday together are now going on week-long vacations. There's so much healing possible when we come out of this crazy mind that needs to prove itself constantly and think it's right and think everyone else is wrong who thinks differently. So much misery, so much suffering just from this mind. So even just coming out of that 5%, 10%, you'll notice the differences immediately. Relationships all change, everything for the better. You're more open to seeing things happen, more opportunities, because you're not set on it has to happen one particular way. Again, this controlling nature that we have when we live through the mind. Sorry, you had a question before I kept going.
Yeah, but I think you answered every time.
Yes.
Well, I think it's very well said what you just said. All of this, all of it. Really interesting. Nice.
So, as some of you may know, I was with Eckhart Tolle last week, and he calls this a disease, a mental disease that the entire planet is suffering from. Because everyone is in their heads. Nobody knows it any different. A few get exposed to it. I was lucky that I was exposed to it. And you can definitely make a change in your life, in your inner circle. But the majority of people are in the stranglehold of their thoughts. Wars are created from this "we are right and you are wrong" mindset. Entire populations are relegated because they're viewed as less. So much suffering just from everyone being stuck in their head.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that can affect you physically?
Absolutely.
Can I ask
Great
a
question.
in between, before that? Actually,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, this is part of this is a Q&A,
Because
so.
I have a really a question I really want to know. We have, so obviously you know Tony Robbins, we have the same kind of Tony Robbins in the Netherlands, and he is actually trying to the government to change the government in the terms they are doing the whole school system, right? So he actually wants these things like, let's call it personal development, mindfulness, but also kind of mindset, integrated in the school, how do you say that, implemented thank you, in the school system. Do you believe that we are teach wrong from our childhood? And if yes, how would you, like, how do you see it?
If we should start as young as possible?
Well, probably should we be educated like different than we are right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I get asked many questions. Chris, what do you think about this? Chris, what do you think about that? My answer is always, it doesn't matter what I think. I have my truth. But I'm here to help others discover their truth. So it really doesn't matter what I think. It's a finding what your truth is. You shouldn't believe something just because I have my truth, what I say or what I believe. But on a general level, these things were taught. They are taught in some cultures. Would you say they are taught to some degree?
Thinking about this, at least of this group, that contentment and having no craving will solve that rat race and things. So somewhere we want to sort out our problems, not to be in that state.
So that's an interesting point because everyone's journey is different. And I taught higher education and continuing education for 10 years at UCLA, and I noticed very quickly that in a room of 20 or 30 students, every single one learns differently. They have different ways of processing information. They have different ways of some hearing, some reading, some visual, some abstract. I mean, the ways people learn and absorb information and get inspired by information are so vast and varied. Every single person really needs their own tutor, their own teacher. And it's not always at the same time in life either. Some are ready to do calculus at 3. And the next is just a genius at playing the piano or whatever it is. And then others just take longer. I was very late in my education. I didn't really understand math and the sciences until my mid-20s. It almost caused me to flunk multiple times. And then suddenly the light went off and I became a computer programmer. So had I been forced into like a path earlier, I wouldn't have turned out this way. So there's also a question of private life and public life. Can you create a curriculum on the public level that matches all? I don't know, but it's certainly right now the education systems are very different in different countries, but in the US private schools, you can find schools, Montessori schools, other schools that actually teach these things. They don't have grades, they don't have report cards, they try to nurture the individual.
We compare. And in that, the whole thing starts.
Yes.
You are saying you are you.
Yeah.
Try to fear, be you.
Yes.
So somewhere all this starts when we start looking at the other person.
Well, because that's there's a journey that most people have to go through. I've met some incredibly enlightened 9-year-olds who are just, they're baked, they're just like last lifetime before Buddha level. But for most of us, we have a certain journey, and most of that journey consists of trying things that then only to find that they don't resonate. And then it's important to recognize that, be in tune with your inner voice, so that you can then, it points you to the things that do resonate. But if you're not actually feeling if something resonates or not, if you're just trying to figure it out with your head and what do others think of me, what's the social prestige or other kind of mental criteria, then that's how you get stuck in a career path that you don't like. That's how you get stuck in relationships that aren't really elevating. So yeah, this comparative, constantly critical mind, if you're using it to make decisions that are supposed to be in alignment with you, your mind just can't figure it out. It's trying to look at everything and compare A to B to C to D to D, but there's just not enough energy, enough time, and it's so inefficient. Yeah. And this is really, we're only starting the practice. We're going to take this up a notch on day 3.
And can I add on to
Yes.
the school thing and everything?
Yeah.
So basically what, according to me, 100 years or 150 years back, there were only 2 things. There were the colonizers and there were the slaves. So this education system of almost each and every country was designed by the colonizers to basically educate the slaves. And that was only designed till such an extent that slaves could do their work properly. But unfortunately, throughout these last 100 years, in many countries, the education systems, the curriculums have not changed, including in India. In India, still the curriculum is almost that of what the Britishers have established. So currently, right now, also most of the Indian youth doesn't know the India's history that much to a great extent, and that's a shame. And no, what about, I was talking about that. So today's world is all about the big tech, big companies, and they need their employees. So that's kind of modern day slavery. That is modern day slavery. So I guess this mental health and everything has taken a backlash, and it might not be in every country's priorities to have that in the curriculum, I guess.
Yeah, but what that is I always say that's not a problem. That's life unfolding. That's life unfolding. Things are out of whack, things are out of balance one way or another, or for one person or another, or for one population or another, and then they try to rectify it because they want to be in alignment. So then there's movements in one area of society or one area of commerce or business. It's important not to get caught up in the right and wrong of things. Recognize what your needs are, what is calling you, and move towards that. But everything is in waves, everything is in motion. And to say that something is right is like stamping it like it's permanent, and nothing is permanent. Things that I thought were right, in earlier years, I have a completely different take on now. And things that I thought were wrong, that I labeled as wrong. So right and wrong are these strong statements that apply almost a permanence. Yes, exactly. Our patterns are full of rights and wrongs. Yeah. So it's important not to get caught up in the justice of things, because then it's also it's actually an indicator that you're being fueled by the mind that wants to validate itself. You're much more likely to create change by being the change. Right? Gandhi. And the people around you that you're resisting are actually being fed by the resistance that you're pushing against, that you're fighting against. They're being fed to push back. So more often than not, the peaceful approach of really being the change and carrying yourself a certain way and speaking your truth without having to insult anybody, without having to make anyone wrong, is the path of least resistance and the path to the greatest possible change in the shortest amount of time. In the little things and in the big things. But when people don't know that, and they're all acting from their heads, you see these clashes. Continuous clashes over centuries, over millennia, just clashing. And it's all because they're coming from that place of right and wrong. So, yes, you wanted to ask a question, but... Oh, she did ask.
About physical, how to...
How do you change the body physically?
Okay, yes. Yes. Do we have another question in the meantime?
I was just curious about, like, he asked us about parenting, and you mentioned about healing. So where is the balance of finding the healing in the inner child?
Finding the healing in the child?
No, inner child.
Oh, inner child.
Yes.
Yes.
Have the inner child trauma. So how to heal the inner child? Like thinking, or just, I know it's a long process, but just trying to understand more.
Yeah. So what we're doing is the ultimate healing machine, ultimate healing process. By the end of the week, you'll have an understanding of how your whole system works, how the body works, how sensations arise, and how the only reason they get stuck is because we're judging them in one way or another. And we're judging them because we're thinking through. And once we release the mind's control, then we can experience our feelings just as they are. And that is the broadest possible healing modality. It takes longer, it's more gradual, but it's permanent. It's the only thing I've tried every form of meditation. It's the only thing that I came across that is permanent. Because that reactivity, that mental noise, is hardwired in us. Our neurons are wired to react. That's why we keep repeating the same situations, repeating the same reactions and the loops and relationships or the same mistakes or whatever it is. Because we're hardwired at this point. So to come out of that hardwiring takes a little work. It's totally possible. Totally possible. And it's permanent. And most importantly, it's the natural way. There's all kinds of ideas out there. Shortcuts. Everyone wants shortcuts. Not that this is even that long of a process. The benefits show themselves instantly. Just sleep better sleep. Less reaction to being cut off in traffic. Just noticing more senses, smells, sights, and sounds. Little things. Your life starts to blossom very quickly. But there are modalities and practices out there that target certain things, certain areas. So those who are unfamiliar with inner child healing, it happens to every single one of us. There's no parent that can avoid their child. It could be you were at the supermarket with your mom and as a baby, and right when you needed her, because somehow you were crying or upset, she turned to the other aisle to get cereal. And in that moment, she wasn't there, and you felt abandoned. And now you have a wound. Is that exactly what happened? It's going to happen. There's just no way it won't happen. And that's just how life is designed. And we don't realize it. So, inner child healing allows you to reparent. It's often called reparenting. Where you go back, and now with your mature self, you replay that scene where you were a little child and you were wounded, you felt abandoned, and you are the parent that you wish you had had at that moment to yourself. So you give your little self, your baby self, your child self, inner child, the hug that it needed to feel comforted, or the attention, the acknowledgement of its feelings. And that is absolutely a good method. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yes. This is ultimately all self-love. And that alone brings up a lot of feelings of guilt or shame. I hear all kinds of things that this idea of loving yourself is that you're being selfish. It's a big one.
No, but really it has its effect
Yeah.
when you have yourself and
Yeah.
love yourself somewhere else.
Oh yes, absolutely. Self-hugs. Yeah. So you can. I've done inner child healing for myself on certain things, and it definitely works. And so much of even this technique might not work for certain things, but it's having the awareness of, okay, I've tried this and that, I've tried this and that. Keep seeking, keep looking. There's always something. Sometimes there's just one specific technique that works on one particular thing. And you just have to keep searching and find it and try different things out. There's wonderful, wonderful things, psychosomatic issues that can be resolved through NLP, EMDR, tapping. I mean, really wonderful things that are so simple. And I've tried those as well and used those for certain things. But this is the mothership. This is the granddaddy of all, where we're not just trying to fix one thing, but we're really elevating our connection to ourselves. That's why it's be you. It's ultimately, this is what leads to being your best self, your truest self, your highest self, the person you're meant to be, the person that there's a blueprint inside. And when you have the space, when you're out of the grip of your mind and you have the space to feel what resonates, what is resonating is your blueprint. The blueprint, like when you build a house, you have architect creates a blueprint to how you're built. Well, we each have that inside of us. And that's what lights up when you recognize something. Ooh, that's me. That I feel a connection to this situation, this person, this experience. And so follow that experience. Joseph Campbell, another great teacher and philosopher and the father of mythology, always said, you've probably heard, follow your bliss. Just follow when you feel that resonate, when you feel yourself light up, follow that. It's life's GPS. It's right there. Life is so simple. We don't have to figure it all out. And we especially don't have to figure it all out in advance. Right? We sit down and we try to map out our whole life. Not even just next week, like our whole life. There's images and imprints and conditioning for every stage of life. And unless we come out of that world of imprints, we're going to get to the next stage and be disappointed because it's not the way it's supposed to be. We'll be in resistance. We'll try to figure it out there. And then the next stage, and totally unprepared for it because we're always up against our own expectations. And the expectations can never be as detailed, as colorful, as invigorating, as exciting, as mysterious, as life happening. Every new moment comes along, and it's fresh, and it's new and exciting, and it's different. There's nothing, no two moments are the same. Why not live in that moment where everything is exciting and you get to feel what resonates and follow what resonates? And life becomes fun. It's an adventure. Ooh, what happens next? Not like, why is it not the way I thought it should be? Resistance, depression, down energy. But instead, wonder, awe, like, I could never have imagined this. I could never have imagined this. Sitting here talking like this, never imagined it. Writing a book, never imagined it. If I followed exactly what I was conditioned to follow, my life would be such a fragment of what it is now.
Actually, I'm following something I don't know already, but few things of his on quotes he used to write evidence, and it really, I was once upon a time, it is very naturally accepting images. This last 2-3 months we are really cool. this Bali trip was very great, but I was like, I was not planning or not thinking anything. So somewhere it's really ended very good.
The magic when you see things unfold that you could never have created, that you couldn't even conceive of.
You enjoyed each movement. Just say this set, then next set. Okay. It was beautiful. Taking flight for the first time like this, and so many things were there.
And so many people are afraid because they think then you're just living in, you have no idea what's going to happen, you're just loosey-goosey, there's chaos in your life, and nothing could be farther from the truth.
But I also think,
Yes.
I also think that what I see in, like around me and so many people, we are taught not to make mistakes. So people are afraid of making mistakes because if you make a mistake right now, we are all gonna laugh. Look at him, he's making a mistake. That's how our brain like worked from back in the days.
Yes.
Remember?
Absolutely.
Football.
Absolutely.
That's so interesting, and I'm making hundreds of mistakes every day, but I just laugh at it because I know there will be one point where I'll probably learn something, right?
And absolutely. And what is mistake is a word, and the word is a sound that we've attached a meaning to. So the stigma of mistake is attached to the sound of this word. Why can't it just be learning? Much better word. So, but absolutely, to address the question before we move on to our last session of the day, our mind will make us sick. Living through the mind will make us sick. We wind up making choices and decisions that are not in our highest interest. We are denying our inner truth constantly. We're avoiding difficult feelings. We're creating a whole life around ourselves that we don't really want, that we don't resonate with. But we make up excuses in our minds constantly. No, this is the right thing. This is what I should be doing. This is what others tell me. This is what will lead to social acceptance or prestige or career or a big paycheck. All kinds of excuses. The mind can justify any behavior. It can justify any behavior towards others, and it can especially justify behavior towards yourself. You can harm yourself and find reasons. The mind will find a reason why it's okay to do so. It's crazy. It's crazy. So the body will, in the end, show that illness, that imbalance, that disconnect from self. It can come out in all kinds of different ways. Probably one of the first, most obvious signs is depression. Dread of tomorrow. What will tomorrow bring? Fears start to crop up. Doesn't even have to be a full-blown illness at first. It's just anxiety, feeling lost, disoriented, confused, unhappy, just unhappy. And in the end, the happiness doesn't come from creating a situation in life that has all the elements that are supposed to make you happy, that you think will make you happy. And even if you pursue the things that resonate, it doesn't create this perfect life, ever. But it's being able to feel your feelings. All of them. Some pleasant, some unpleasant. Some larger, some smaller. But to feel life passing through you. And no more clinging, resisting, and controlling, and steering, and hoping, and wishing, and all of this noise. But rather feel the life, the current. Let it take you with you. Ride the current, ride the wave. Be in amazement and see what it brings you. Because it's almost a guarantee that what that wave can bring you is much bigger and more exciting and more miraculous than anything our little mind can ever make up.
This was acceptance and non-reactive triggers. It really works for me.
Good. Okay, well with that,
I have noted that 5 pointers at the end in our schedule. Non-violence and can you just elaborate that one? 5 points.
well, again, we can only harm others, and to an extent we can only harm ourselves when we're disconnected from them. When there's distance. And the mind loves to label things. You are a bad person. You're wrong. You're lost. And when the mind labels, anything it labels, it creates energetic distance to it. I'm over here, I'm right, I'm righteous, I'm correct, I'm on the right path, and you over there, you are lost and you're wrong. There's a distance. The mind just created a distance through its judgment, through its labeling of others. And then you do that with this person and with that person and this person and that person. You even do it with the tree. We label a tree or a dog. And the mere labeling of it creates a separation, a sense of separateness from that which we've labeled. And we do this all day long when we live through the mind. We label everything. We give everything a name. Everything is separate from us. Separate, 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 separate. So no wonder at the end of the day, we feel separate and alone and small and confused in this big, scary world. Because we've just spent our whole day creating separateness, a sense of separateness to everything. Because the mind needs to label, it needs to know, it needs to control. So if we're only living through the mental lens, that's the experience we get. And as we come out of that, and we connect with our body, inner truth wants everyone to have their inner truth. That distance shrinks. You come closer together. You can listen to somebody without judging them. They can feel that what they're saying is being reflected honestly and with curiosity without injecting your own judgment. Brings you closer. Better listener, better compassion, care. You feel more and more connected. You notice how everything is unique, how it's miraculous. It's crazy that we're here. It's all crazy miracle. In fact, you can get to the point where you're so connected that sometimes I feel like we have to have a little judgment in our minds to create that separation, because if we're so tuned into the miracle of life, we'd just be having, ecstatic moments all day long. It's just too much to take. It's too much to take. That we're here, we're walking, and that I have a nose, and that you have teeth and smile, and this situation, this house, and this planet, and it's rotating, and there's stars out. It's just crazy. Wow, look at the colors. There's no need for all this diversity. It's just so beautiful and amazing, and just like an explosion, a constant geyser of just new, fresh life and regenerating and just like bubbling up, and we're part of that bubbling up. Like an artist gone mad, just like paint and all kinds of acrylics and colors and shapes. Yes, it's
such a great patterns and colorability and information. And in the white flowers, this one
yeah.
is so cool.
And those of you who've gone scuba diving,
I just wanted to mention, and you even have ever never have been to our campfire, right?
no, I have not. Yes, the world down there is even more. I mean, just crazy, unbelievable. This place we live in. And if we weren't constantly obsessed with our thoughts, glued to those thoughts, identified with those thoughts, running, chasing what those thoughts tell us one moment and the next, then we're actually open to seeing that miracle that we're in, this incredible experiment called life. So, little less thought, attachment, starts to open us up to the miracle, to seeing the colors, Okay, with that said, we'll have plenty more Q&As in the evenings. We're going to make our way down to the next shala. Not the bottom one, but the one around the corner here for our evening meditation. Thank you.
Did you read Kobe as well? Study Kobe?
Kobe?
Stephen Kobe?
No. I've heard the name.
The 7 Habits.
Oh, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, what you actually said right now, you know the photo of an old woman and a young woman in the same photo?
Uh-huh.
So that's what he
entrance of your nostrils. Natural breath. No. If you can't connect to your breath, it's okay to breathe harder, once or twice. Notice the character of your breath. Is it shallow? To the breath at the entrance of your nostrils. If your mind drifts to the sounds in your environment, or your sensations in your body, use those sounds or sensations to deepen your awareness of your surroundings. Always embrace what is, never wanting it to be different. And then bring your attention back to your breath. Every time you find your mind has drifted, simply bring it back. Accept that it has drifted and bring it back. Get closer and closer to your breath. Notice more and more detail. Remember, you're building a muscle, your awareness muscle. It's okay to push yourself, but if it ever feels like too much, take a break. And once you're ready, you can begin again. And 5 more minutes. Let's make it count. Focus on your breath deeply, accurately, precisely. Intimately. Three minutes. One more minute. And relax your posture. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Gradually open your eyes, staying connected to your breath. This your environment. Notice sounds and sights. And you're back. try to keep this connectedness, maintain it as we walk back to our rooms or to our body treatments or to the main room. Staying aware of our breath, aware of any thoughts that might arise, and just noticing everything we encounter. Just notice it.